I think I've been controversial take. I think the castle, we may need to replace it.
Just go ahead and take the castle down and put Sleeping Beauty's castle there.
Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. I am with my friends Easton. I'm with my friend David. How's it going, fellas?
Hey.
Good.
It's been another week. We've been able to digest the D23 announcements, and like most things, you know, the initial excitement then gets hit with a barrage of, well, wait a second. If they do this, then what does that mean for this? And there's been a lot of kind of that back and forth over time. I still think generally, from what I've read, the sentiment is positive on the new things that are coming, but it's been definitely tempered by people saying, well, what's leaving? Well, and I don't think they've been very committal on and given us any concrete facts on what is leaving, but there's a lot of speculation, and there's other podcasts and other news outlets that are speculating, well, it has to go here, it has to go here, or this has to come out. So what have you guys heard? What have you guys, have you felt that sentiment and that tide kind of turn a little bit post D23?
Well, I did. In fact, I really had to stop watching this week because I felt like every time I turned around, there was just more, it was negative. A lot of negative backlash, and I'm kind of in that mix of I'm excited about the new things. I really there are a lot of great things that I think are no-brainers, and everybody's wanted a Coco ride, and there's just a lot of things that are really great. The Monsters Inc., Monstropolis, all that sounds fantastic. People have been asking for that roller coaster for 20 years. So it's more of a, oh, wow, what's going to leave, and not just what attractions are going to leave, but how does it impact the ambiance and the entire feel of these parks and these lands that you have so much nostalgia for. And how much can you change without just making it feel like, well, this isn't even the same place. This is something completely new, and it's strange, and I don't like this. So that's been a lot of it, and it was really sad. I think even before D23, a lot of news got leaked that something was coming, and something was going to replace the Muppet 3D experience, and Star Tours was a possibility that whole land, that whole area in Hollywood Studios could go. Then they made the announcements. Then people figured out, and then other announcements were going out. No, that's all going to the animation courtyard. It won't affect Muppets. But now, obviously, there's been multiple pieces of artwork where they show the blue sky artwork, and if you look at the artwork, there's some artwork that looks like it's going in Animation Courtyard, and there's some artwork that looks like it's going right there in Muppet, in the Muppets area. It's just, you can tell it's the same sidewalks, it's the same roadways, it's some of the same type backdrops. And so there's two different visions out there. Somebody pointed out, I think it was Braden from Mickey Views, that said, if you look really closely at the concept art for the Monsters Inc. land in Muppets area, it's even dated 2020. So it's like 4-year-old art concept that they say is starting really soon, but the artwork is still 4 years old. So who knows? I think they were being really, and I said this last time, I think they were being very vague on purpose. They did not want to. They wanted to announce big things, but they did not want to announce. They did not want to announce anything that would cause backlash, especially with a live audience. With Josh D'Amaro on stage. They didn't want anything to get booed. They don't want anything to get a negative reaction. So they only gave the positive. And so, accordingly, people now are going to be a little upset that, the ambiance or their favorites are going to go away. I've been I'm more surprised at the Magic Kingdom ripping out all of the ambiance of Frontierland. Again, not the attractions, not the riverboat, not the not Tom Sawyer's Island necessarily. Any of those things could be rethemed to other things, and the atmosphere doesn't change. It's that ripping the whole thing out and putting something new in there that takes all that away. That was the bigger surprise to me. But there are a lot of people that love the Muppets, and if Monstropolis goes in that area, Muppets would be converted to a Monsters Inc. show, and that was, I guess, it was Jim Henson's last project he worked on and last voicings that he did for his characters, and so people are very passionate about that. People love that. People that grew up going to that attraction, especially, are, Again, so a lot of backlash, a lot of concerns and questions.
So let me ask you. So hearing what you just said, what of the things? First of all, it is true, correct, that we don't know certainly what is out yet.
Right.
We're assuming.
It could be them testing it. I think I don't know these people, and so it's hard to know their motives. And but they've created enough doubt, I think, among their fan base, just like we've talked about before, that people start to get so nervous, like they don't have the trust that they did, and they said in 2014, we're going to do an all new Fantasyland, and here's the concept art. Well, a lot of it didn't get done that way, but I don't think anybody was going, they're ruining Fantasyland. But now people are like, ooh, 10 years later, they're like, I don't know that I have the confidence that I did 10 years ago that what you do will be good and or as good as what we have. So go ahead. I think you had another question.
No. But if you were to list, and I think you mentioned it in there, what is the thing that would upset you the most if it had to go? Of all the things on the list.
For me, the thing that I would hate to see the most go for some reason, and I guess it's my nostalgia. It's, I've been going to the park since I was like 10 years old. So for me, changing the lands, changing something like the Magic Kingdom, that's the most concerning thing to me, especially when they have so much land behind Big Thunder Mountain. And that's what sounded like when we heard Cars Land, and we're like, well, it matches. Like, I could see why they would want to build it back there. It would blend in with Big Thunder Mountain. It would be, aesthetically easy to do. Never, ever thought they would put Cars Land right there in the middle of it. I mean, and to do that means they're retheming everything. They're going to retheme all that land. They're going to let go of all that Imagineering tradition and storytelling of that whole land, and it's going. And that's why people are going, well, if they're doing this, then Liberty Square's on the chopping block, because they're going to get anything America related out. They're going to convert it all to adventure. It's not going to be American nostalgia anymore. No Liberty, no Frontier. And so I don't know. That's what people are saying online. That's a lot of some of the most well-known vloggers that I listen to are saying that get ready, because it's all going to go. So, I mean, I think those are things that are concerning. I'm more concerned about the ambiance of the Magic Kingdom. To me, it's like somebody said, well, if they just decided, hey, let's retheme Main Street. And there are people that think they could eventually do that too. Like, well, to make this Americana Street, we need to make this more like Tokyo's World Bazaar. They could redo the whole thing. Who knows? So, those things concern me more than taking out one attraction. Like, I'll use the example of Country Bear Jamboree. I would hate to see that go. I would really hate to see it go. It was part of my childhood, but I have to admit, I've taken my kids to it, and they didn't respond to it because they don't have that nostalgia. And I for years said, please, I don't want this to go. Can't you figure out how to make this engaging for a modern audience? So when they say they're going to overhaul it, I'm excited. Even when I heard a couple of years ago that there was a rumor online that it was going to become a Toy Story show, I was like, no. But at the same time, if it had kept Frontierland and it kept kids excited about that whole theme, and the whole theme not going away, I would have said, okay, I mean, my kids, they would like to go see a Toy Story show in this theater because they don't know these bear characters. They made a bad movie. They've just never done anything to bring these characters to life for a generation. And again, that's the thing where you go, why? Why have you never been able to do these things that just seem so obvious? Like these are great properties, IPs. You should be doing something with them that makes kids want to go to this show. You could have done a kids show on Disney Channel that featured the Country Bears in an animated, inexpensive something, and just to get kids liking Country Bears. But they've never done that. They've done one movie and they moved on.
Well, something like maybe Country Gummy Bears.
Yeah, there you go.
Just make them gummy.
Gummy Bears was a hit. It never even got
bouncing here and there and everywhere.
So, that's to me is more about that environment. And again, I love Hollywood studios, but like some people that's their favorite part. And that's the most nostalgic thing to them. So when the New York City and the Backlot tour and all that went for Galaxy's Edge, there were people that grieved that hated that.
It's a 35-year-old park. How could people, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like when they remodel Kroger, and I'm like, now I don't know where the lettuce is. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that big of a deal. And that was the point I wanted to make. Easton, I want you to chime in here too. But from what I'm hearing, there's plenty of land. Make something new. Change all you want. But there is something about the Magic Kingdom that still was Walt's vision. You have the lands. There's all the history there. So to just like take a demolition ball to an entire land to retheme makes you nervous, or makes you it's a little irritating, especially when it's not done with care. And I think this is another part too, where the contentious times we live in, there does seem to be a group of people who want to change things but don't respect the history and don't respect the people who love the history. And there are right ways and wrong ways to go about this. And time will tell, because again, we don't know for sure. And I will bring up, Country Bear was on the chopping block, yet they revamped it to mixed reviews. But it's still there. They listened to fans and left it there. So now Thunder Mountain is not going. Big Thunder Mountain's not going anywhere. Country Bears is still there. And, Tiana's doesn't quite fit like Splash Mountain's motif did. But we've just spent a lot of money to make sure country things are still right there in that quadrant of the park, right? So we don't know for sure what's going forever. There's a lot of assumptions that we make about, political correctness gets involved and they want to get rid of any references to American Indians, and actually I will refer people to the last episode of the Disney Dish. With Lynn Testa and what's the other guy? Jim Hill. Yeah, they just went through about the history of Frontierland and actually made a few good points about how Walt characterized the American Indians in a good way, right? Just like anything else, there's pros and cons to the whole way the frontier story is told, right? There are some terrible things that happened that you can't gloss over in history. But at the same time, just like any group of people, there are good guys and there's bad guys. And there's ways to tell the story that are honoring. I always go back to, and this is Easton, I want to hear you, we get to, but I always go back to when you get into the political arguments, the political correctness with subjects like the American West and the pioneers and those things. I always go back. I'm a huge Florida State Seminoles fan, right? And I grew up that, and the Seminoles were I'm getting eye rolls from my Tennessee people and Georgia people. But the whole thing is that mascot, Chief Osceola, would go in on the horse at midfield and throw the spear down on fire, and the whole crowd goes crazy, right? And of course, everybody wants to come after that and say, well, you are, exploiting Native American. But here's the funny thing. The Seminole Indian tribe, it completely endorses it. They have the Chief Osceola is a real Seminole Indian. It's honoring. They have such a great history partnering with this tribe, who is by the way, the only unconquered tribe in North America. And the whole Seminole history now is something that people explore and celebrate because of this incredible football brand, right? It's a university in Tallahassee. And I feel like there's a way to do this that still excites and tells the story of imagination without it being cowboys and Indians, in the traditional sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It totally does. And I think again, that's one of those things that makes people very nervous in today's environment, because there is often backlash of, say, for example, a mascot, and there's backlash. And so then changes are made, and then you find out that most of the people that supposedly were being offended weren't. It was a very small subset of a group that was offended that got all this change made, and most of the people within the group that were being affected, regardless of whether it was race or any other thing, weren't really offended. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's, again, what's happening a lot in Frontierland. Do we have a group of people that want this overhauled? We have this stories. What do they call it? What is this? It's just like the stories department. I just quoted it to you. What do they call it? It's not the Reimagined group. It's the. I'll think of it. Easton, you go ahead and share your thoughts, and then I'll come back to this.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of it, the most frustrating thing for me about it is all the offended people. It seems like, no, I shouldn't say all, that's pretty absolute, but I feel like a lot of the people who are getting offended are just getting offended for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think there's an argument to say, though, like if somebody's going to get their feelings hurt, best just not do it? You know what I mean? I've heard that argument before. Like, why, if somebody, like when the Washington Redskins changed their name and the Cleveland Indians changed their name, that what they were responding to, and people would roll their eyes and get upset about that. But also those mascots were kind of leaning into tropes, into some things that were, it's a little different, right, than what the Seminoles did.
Yeah.
So where is that line of, well, if it's only one or two people offended, or a small versus a large group, and who makes that decision? And what I think the ironic thing is, typically it seems like rich white people are the ones making the decision about who gets who's offended and who's not. We're making decisions on behalf of other people, which isn't in and of itself. This is my political statement of the day, which is in and of itself kind of elitist and a little racist, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I agree with you on that. I think there is a very, very fine line between the two. I mean, I know that for some scenarios, like teams that change their mascot, it does lean a little more, stereotypical, and I think those are grounds for making some changes. But I think if you can look back on history and see people who are in a specific group that go, no, this is actually, I feel like I'm being seen and being celebrated through this, but you have another group of rich white people who are like, no, this is offensive for them.
Well, it's the story. And like you said, these are people who are the best storytellers on the planet. Surely we can tell the story of the American West in an uplifting, positive, non-controversial way. Surely, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you would think so. And I think that's one of the things, again, I've been going back and really trying to watch a lot of older Disney and a lot of Walt's Disney, a lot of these shows and these Wonderful World of Disney shows, and how they represented things. And there's so much diversity in these shows, and these are really diverse casts and really diverse stories, where he, obviously was trying to go and show a lot of diversity and groups and peoples that had never been on TV before. So there's really is a history of trying to do it well and making sure that people were really authentically hired, and that the stories were, historically accurate, and did not paint everybody to be necessarily a villain all the time, but try to respect people, respect that.
In addition, in the Lynn Testa, Jim Hill podcast, Disney Dish, they told a story in a way, and I don't agree. Like, this is one of the things that I thought was kind of weird. They told a story about how when Walt would bring either Florida government officials into the park or executives, corporate executives he would go straight to there, and they would sit through the the Native American, the Indian part, right? And they explained it like, and there was people in full regalia, and they kind of the way they presented it was that was cringy, that they would get their picture made with the chief, and I thought, why is that problematic? Like, of course, there's a way to see this and look at the past and be like, people were just insensitive and didn't know what we know now, and it's cringy. On the other side, I don't believe for a second that Walt had anything other than like full respect and like was in awe of these cultures, right? And we're going out of his way to be part of that. And it would be the same as if you took a picture in the German part with people in lederhosen, or people in Asia in full like geisha kind of regalia, right, or a Mountie in Canada. There's all sorts of like things that are identified with people groups that don't have to be disrespectful. They can be fully celebrated. And that's what I don't understand. I wanted to ask you, Easton, too, your list of the things you heard that are speculated that could go to get something else. Is there anything that's kind of like this is over the line for you?
Well, I said last week that I'm most upset about Dinosaur going for the Indiana Jones, but that's just like the nostalgia.
I think you're the only one, though.
I might be the only one. Me and 4 other people are upset about Dinosaur leaving. But I do
think that there are a lot of people. I think that everything's going to have its audience. Yeah. I think everything has its audience.
I'm still upset about Delta Dream Flight, so I get you.
But I was thinking this week about like the camp of people who think the animation building is going for Monstropolis, and the group of people who think Muppets is going. And one of our arguments that we were making last week is we know that they just kind of redone all the seating in Muppet Vision 3D. And so it's like people are thinking, why would they take that out if they just redone the seating? But that could be preparation for a Monsters, Inc. show. They're just revamping the seating to switch it out for Monsters, Inc. to put Monstropolis there. Now, I still don't know which place it's going.
There were many people saying that animation area, but now it's come out like how many employees. There are a lot of offices in there, like a lot of Walt Disney World offices are in there, so they would have to they'd have to have more office space. And so that's where the question came in, because a lot of people that reported that couldn't confirm it because nothing's been decided where all those people would go, and that would be more costly. That might be more costly than dropping it right there in Muppet Vision Theater.
Now, my question to you guys is, do you think that the Disney company is kind of leaning into this controversy a little bit and just throwing out like it could be here, it could be here, and kind of gauging how the audiences are reacting?
Well, I'm not sure Disney said it could be here, it could be here. I feel like these are people with park plans and just park junkies who are like, well, it has to go here, it has to go here, and I think that we have the idea, but we don't know, do we?
Well, they put that concept art out there, and
right.
the 2 concept arts, you can tell, like you look at it, you go, oh, that's where Launch Bay is. Oh, that's the floor that's the pavement in the Muppet area. It looks just like it. So you've got 2 concept arts. It's kind of like, I guess, like a Taylor Swift song. When she writes a song and all her Swifties are going, ooh, she's talking about so and so here.
That's it's a great,
like
great point.
Everybody's reading into this because they've done that. And I think I started to say it earlier. They did that at D23 a couple of years ago, where they did the Blue Sky Day, and I always thought was the only purpose of this to see over the next year or two what got the most buzz, like what people were excited about, what people didn't get excited about. And so now they come back and then they try, because they're just clueless of what to do without 100% involvement from the fan base. I cannot figure them out. But again, that might be the thing. They've thrown out 2 concept arts and they see what gets the bigger complaint. and so they know what they need to do. Hopefully, I mean, I'm hoping that they'll go, hey, there's such a backlash about this change in this environment that we're going to make this Tiana's riverboat, and we're going to do something different on Tom Sawyer Island, and we'll build this back here. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. I don't know. I'm concerned again. It's more about money and Florida regulations and not wanting to build on the new land because that's harder and requires the government. And so I think it's more about that. But I will say, in regard to what a couple of conversations we've had about something like the Liberty Bell. Because we talked about it a little bit yesterday when we were talking about getting together and who rides the Liberty boat, who goes to Tom Sawyer's Island, and I've heard a lot of people that that argument brought up. That's the one thing people are like, well, but I would argue back that's again their problem because they've made riding the e-ticket rides so hard. You can stand in line for 2 hours for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, an hour and a half for Space Mountain, and an hour for Thunder Mountain. And on a bad day, you're going to be in line now for an hour for Haunted Mansion sometimes and Pirates, which is crazy. And so who has time? Who has time to get to Tom Sawyer's Island? It's not a lack of want to. I mean, we went to Easton's never gotten to ride the riverboat. And when we went on this last trip, we didn't do it. And it was really, we just run out of time.
Well, there's a case too. There's nostalgia part. So the last time we were at Universal this past spring, I made everyone ride ET because it's a last original ride in the park. Again, and I know this is a different animal. This is, Universal, they have their fans. Every time they got rid of Jaws or King Kong or whatever, people freaked out. But it's not the same level as Disney, granted. However, here I am, Dad. I'm like, we're all riding ET. Let's go. And so we go and we stand in line for 90 minutes. And then we get off the ride and my kids were like, that is the worst ride I've ever ridden in my entire life. You know what I'm saying? It's time for it to go, right? It's like, and again, there's part of me, it's like, I remember it as a kid. And like, E.T.'s such a big part of my childhood. And even that ride was it's just magical. Even the ride queue is just really cool. The story's kind of dumb. But
it's weird at the end.
It's weird at the end. And then you even have like a 38-year-old Steven Spielberg talking to you on a 4x3 CRT TV in the pre-queue. Like it's a step back in time. But then you get done an hour and a half later and we're never riding this again, but everybody did it once. And it's got to go. It's got to go. And I'm not saying Riverboat and Tom Sawyer Island are like that, but I'm kind of saying Riverboat and Tom Sawyer Island are like that. And we talked about this. You're still riding old-timey cars in Tomorrowland that go 3 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Like, I've been over that ride since I was, 13 years old, and I had a season pass. Like, you just knew the line's too long, and it's a dumb ride, and it needs to go. They need to replace it with something else. It should have been done a long time ago, and that's a lot of land. That's a lot of land.
And again, I would be sympathetic with that because Tomorrowland, the Speedway is something you can ride anywhere. Now, 30, 40 years ago.
International Drive and ride real go-karts.
50 years ago, kids couldn't drive a go-kart anywhere. I mean, that was a big deal. And you go back to the 50s, the reason Tomorrowland's cars are in Tomorrowland is because the freeway was futuristic. They didn't have freeways.
Oh, I got it then. We moved that over to Frontierland because now the front.
Well, that's what they're doing.
That's right. You're putting cars in front. See, I see what's happening here. But I'm still, and again, all the things that nostalgia to me, they got rid of Alien Encounter. You know what I mean? Like that was a great ride. I don't care what anybody says. When you get bled on and people's guts are spilling out on you. I mean, that's a Tomorrowland. You got aliens in Tomorrowland. That was amazing. And even Lilo and Stitch version was great.
Angry Moms got that one out.
But there are plenty of warnings. And then Delta Dreamflight, they changed the old rockets into something that looked a little more up to date. That's been a little while since they've done that. Tron's in now. You still got Space Mountain, which still holds up. But I feel like, and I totally understand the argument that the Magic Kingdom is kind of for lack of a better term, a sacred space because it was Walt's vision. But I will say they have changed things and added things. I remember Mickey's Birthday Land in the back when it came. And that was a big, I want to say a big addition, but that was a decent addition, right?
Yes, but those are good things. I mean, I think adding things like that always make it better. It's just for a lot of people. When we started this podcast, I said, there are people that going to Disney is about going to ride attractions. And to some people, it's about going to stand in front of that castle and watching fireworks. And some people, it's parades. And some people, it's meeting characters. I mean, they can make so much money now from people standing in line an hour to meet a princess that, my generation, I couldn't even imagine that. Like we used to just wave at them and get their autograph and walk on, and now because of, I guess, Instagram and TikTok, everybody has to have a picture to post. So you got to stand in line for it. But I mean, everybody's got their thing. But I think one of the top things for me, and I did see this, with John David. I think my son, who's been a part of this show before. He experiences this. A huge part of it is just being there. Like I could really go to Magic Kingdom and feel like. Big sigh.
Oh yeah.
I'm home. I'm in. This is such a good place. I could just walk around. In fact, not the last time when not our last big family trip, but John David and I had a trip there, and he had classes that day, and I sat in a rocking chair on a porch in Frontierland probably for an hour, maybe more, and I just watched people and I soaked in all that environment and the boats going by and hearing people, shouting from Splash Mountain, and I could hear Thunder Mountain in the distance, and people trading pins out on the sidewalk there in front of the pin trading store, and watching people eat snacks coming out of Pecos Bills, and I just watched all that, and it was like such a relaxing moment, and so those things are important to me. I can just be there and walk around, and I don't have to do anything. Now,
it's the idea that it's actually a park. It's a park.
Right. For the price, though, now they've created all this panic that, oh, gosh, we got to get this. We got to get this. We can't miss this. Oh, but that's not important. And see, when I went, the goal was to do everything. When I first started going as a kid, even when they used to have the ticket books, and so you basically got a ticket to do everything once, and that's what you did. You walked around and you did everything once, and you did everything in a couple of days, and everything, and you felt full. And you did go on the Liberty boat, and you rode Space Mountain, and you went to Country Bears and Small World and Pirates. You did everything, and you didn't really think about. At that point, like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do this 3 times. No, people just didn't even think like that. They had us really conditioned that you didn't want to miss anything. It was all the show. Like, you didn't want to miss any of the show. It'd be like walking out of a movie and going, well, I just did that 10 minutes of the show. I didn't even see that. Like, you wanted to see the whole show. It was like a movie. You didn't want to miss it. And now it's like people will go and be like, I want to see the end of the movie and the middle of the movie, and I want to do those parts 3-4 times, and that's all I need. It's like I don't need the rest of the show. It's a whole new thing. They've created that, and I think a huge part of it is they're probably the way they've structured these lines, the way they've made these lines the way they are. They've monetized the lines. They've monetized everything. They've created this standing in line all day and frantic looking at your phone, trying to get this feeling of I said panic. What is that feeling like? I'm fear of missing out.
FOMO.
Like I gotta do this. I'm doing this. I'm all day long. God, we're not going to get on Rise of Resistance. And I listened to a report of this guy. He's been to Magic Kingdom 3 times since Tiana's Bayou Adventure opened. 3 times. And 3 times they've gone, they've yet to get on Tiana's, because they finally get whatever you got to have to get in Tiana's now. They would wait, they would do everything they were supposed to do, and then it breaks down, and they missed it for their whole trip. They missed it again. 3 times he's gone.
Yeah, that's
That's
unacceptable.
That's their fault. And so then they say, then come back and tell me Riverboat needs to go because nobody is riding it. It's like you've maxed out all of our time standing in line for rides that break down. We got Test Track can break down. We've got Rise of Resistance breaks down. We've got Tiana's breaking down. Anything can go down, but we've got rides that are just known for breaking down. And so, yeah, and then I go, and we didn't have time to ride the riverboat. I'd have gone and gotten ice cream from my family, said, we're going to ride the riverboat. You're going to do this for Dad. But we didn't even have time to do that because we were standing in line. So, again, that's what kind of ticks me off but I'm going to hope that what they create is great and that there's a remnant somewhere in Imagineering that has a great spark of an idea that won't be Moana's water place that breaks down, or a reimagined area that's just a big warehouse of a restaurant that's bland and dull. And maybe we'll see.
We will see. Well,
if not, I'll just watch old clips of how it used to be and remember the good times, and which is really sad because I'm not that old. I really do. I do want new things. I love the new things. I want the new things. I just don't want them to boldly, like you said, bring the wrecking ball in and say nothing's sacred. Bam.
I think I've been controversial take. I think the castle, we may need to replace it.
Well, hey, people said that. It's like, hey, just go ahead and take the castle down and put Sleeping Beauty's castle there.
I'm completely joking, but I will say this. And here's some good news from Disney. Alien Romulus had a great opening weekend, which makes the fourth smash hit of the year. Matter of fact, I was reading an article that talked about how Disney has now got 42% of the market share of summer movies, kind of back hitting their stride. Started with the Planet of the Apes movie. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was a big box office success. Then Inside Out 2, which became the highest grossing animated movie of all time, currently sitting at about 1.6 billion. Then they had, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine, which we talked about a lot on this podcast, which now is officially the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, over $1 billion, getting close to about 1.2 billion and counting. And it's still, making money. And then you had Alien Romulus, which is, on the Alien franchise of Ridley Scott and Sigourney Weaver made that famous back in the day, and this is David's hate this word, this reimagined or take on. It's not reimagined. It's on the future. It's not like they went back and redid the original. It's just using that platform to make a new horror movie that has to do with aliens. And apparently, it's got pretty good reviews. People are going to see it. It seems like it's getting into profitability pretty quickly. I'll probably check it out at some point. It looks really interesting to me. I saw it was the trailer for it at the IMAX theater for Deadpool was really something. So I'd love to go see it in the IMAX if I could. That would be a lot of fun, I think. So I'm excited about it.
If they'd kept the great movie ride, look at all these things. They could have put Deadpool, Wolverine, Planet of the Apes, Alien. They could have put all these things right in there. So
could have put them right in.
Wouldn't have had to taken that out.
I think too. You still have Moana 2 and Mufasa left on the slate for this year. So again, it looks like they're making money.
I'm sure Moana's going to do well unless they take a political turn on it and the news gets out and it somehow offends people one way or another. And if they just go down the right path, it's going to be it'll be $1 million, billion dollar. I mean.
If The Rock is involved, my guess is that it's Teflon, right? Nothing's going to stick to it. The Rock is famously apolitical in kind of everything he's in is not controversial, at least not in those ways. So I feel pretty confident that we're going to get a great Moana 2. We'll just the question is to me is is it going to rise to the original? Is it going to be one of those, or is it going to be kind of a dud? Which one of those are you most excited about seeing, Easton?
Between Moana and Mufasa, I'm actually pretty excited about Mufasa more than Moana. But I think that might be just because when Moana first came out, I'm not really the target audience, and the songs were totally, at least growing up, totally overplayed. Everyone was singing them. But I think Moana's a great movie. But Mufasa, I think, looks really fun. And then after that, this newest trailer that came out, I think it's going to be really good. I know my dad's going to be really excited for it. The live action Lion King is one of his favorites.
All right.
So I know he'll probably want to see it.
Probably another $1 billion movie, I would
think
say.
So. I think both of those, it's going to come down to their not even opening weekends, but just like opening first 2 days through word of mouth, what people say about it. I think that's going to be their, whether they sink or swim, really.
I think that definitely seemed to be the key factor to me in Inside Out, was it got just great buzz right from the beginning and people kept going.
I think that's true. Also, is this the first like major motion picture that expands the Lion King story? You know, we've had like little, straight to video Disney Plus like things around the perimeter with, other characters, but we haven't had a sequel to the Lion King, like a real one, like that came out at the theatrical release.
Well, there was Simba's Pride. That was Lion King 2, and then there was that Lion King 1.5, which was kind of like the Timon and Pumbaa prequel.
Yeah, but those were straight to DVD or whatever, right? There wasn't theatrical releases for that.
I tell you what, those things run through my head now. Like I have a list somewhere. I actually have a list. And I was shocked. There were way more that went to the theater than I realized. But I don't think the Lion King movies did.
So this is really the first.
And there's a lot of misinformation out there too. It's really you have to really dig through that.
According to Wikipedia, it was direct to video. Simba's Pride,
Yeah,
Lion King 2.
I thought it was.
And so this is the first feature length Lion King expansion of the story universe. I'm kind of excited about this. I really am.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be. It looks cool. I saw again preview in the IMAX theater, and it looks beautiful, and the story looks inspiring. I'm pumped. I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, I was really excited when it was Jon Favreau doing that, and it didn't blow me away. Like I think the Jungle Book remake that he did was so good because it was just so good. And I mean, he took Mowgli to a whole new place, and just everything. I just thought it was so good. And you kind of saw nods to the old, but you didn't feel like you were watching the old. And yet it felt more cohesive than, say, like Maleficent or even the Cinderella movie, which is really, really good, that they did like 10 years ago. That's a really good movie. Cate Blanchett as Lady Tremaine she's amazing. But you don't even feel like you're kind of in a different world. It doesn't feel that much like a nod. It's like another Cinderella story. But that Jungle Book movie was perfect for like giving you the nostalgia, but we're not remaking. And then I felt like the Lion King movie was just so much of a remake, and I didn't find it as emotional. I just think the original animation was actually more believable than the CGI. But so I hope this does well. Again, I think it's going to come down to story and who's it for, and what is the message? What do they put in there? What is it going to say? And is it going to be universal? It's got to be universal. That's what's going to make it a hit. The story has to be for everybody. Can't be for just a subset of any subset. It has to be.
I agree.
It's got to be
Those
universal.
are the best ones, like Top Gun Maverick. That's the formula. Anyhow, well, I enjoy talking this about. I think that's most of the news. Stock's up a little bit today. Again, I'm angling. I'm waiting for the big crash. Not just Disney, just overall. And we're we're going to have some things to talk about there. But until next time, guys, it's been fun. We thank you, our loyal listeners, for hanging with us every week. We would ask, if you haven't yet, take just a minute, go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, and rate us 5 stars, and maybe share an episode with a friend. We'd love to hear your review as well. Let us know what you think of these new movies that are coming out. Let us know what your reaction's been to the announcements in the park. What are you most excited about? What are you most apprehensive about that they might let go of or might change? We'd love to hear from you. Until then, fellas, have a great day.
Thanks, guys.